Buenos nachos, amigos, and welcome to Record Breakers, a music podcast where a group of friends gather together to share music with each other, an album at a time. It's like a little book club for music. Fun time had by all. I'm PD Rave, and my entire identity and existence is because of the internet. And I regret it. I really would do. Here with me is my team, my squad, my crew, my friends, my quorum. We've got David.
I stopped trying to figure out the difference between David Majors and DJM in about 2014. I don't really know anymore either.
Yeah. We've got Drew.
Great job, guys. Great. Oh, wait, we're not done yet. I must be clapping for the wrong reason.
And we've got Brett.
Tonight's not been a one Werther's original kind of night. It's been a two Werther's original kind of night. Why? Why, you might ask? Why? Certainly not because of the internet.
I get made fun of by my manager at work because I like Werther's.
People already think this podcast is old as hell. God.
I was trying to find other old people things around my room, but I couldn't find any.
You have Boston baked beans?
Yeah, I need a Charleston chew.
One of us is
really that old.
One of us has chronic acid reflux. One of us has a permanently bummed shoulder. One of us is a ton of back issues. And the other one's Drew.
Wow.
I don't know your current ailments right now. I don't know.
Oh no, I thought I was back issues.
No. This one's back issues. I'm sure you do too.
Yes.
This one's the welder.
I worked at McDonald's for 12 years that was set up for somebody who was probably like 5 inches shorter than me, so I was constantly at a 45, so my lower back
it's not a competition. We're all broken.
Yeah, we're all broken.
Old is something it's like Squiggles, healthy as the day he was born. He's old.
For now.
Yeah.
That back probably works fantastically. But still old.
Yeah. But yeah. We're not going to talk about...
Well, maybe get a third.
We're not here to talk about our diseases and ailments and injuries. No. We're here to talk about music.
Although, since this is an old as hell podcast, probably could.
Yeah. That's true.
You pivot. Need to back it up. You gotta back it up to get it back. So do it right with
that's the Patreon exclusive post show.
Manscaped.
Right.
I could grab some.
You need to shave your balls. Yes. We've got ads for you. We're targeting the right demographics.
Let's talk about skills.
Offer code SLOW release of death.
I mean, I'm going to be talking about 2013 like, it was a million years ago because it kind of was. So this is very fitting.
I will say
it feels like 2019 was a million years ago, to be fair.
Yes. Yeah. I will say, speaking of podcast jokes, if you're interested in, if all those Skillshare ads have you interested, you probably just get a library card and get a free access to Linda. Just so you know. Just as a heads up, as a public service.
Oh, Linda, I said hi.
Lynda.com. Use your library card. You're good to go. Or your school. Your school might have access. But we're here to talk about music. We're here to talk about an album. We're here to talk about an album presented by Drew. Drew, what have you got for us this week?
Well, I think it's one of the 2 Gambino albums we have left to do. Because I think this and the follow-up are the 2 we haven't done yet. I like this one better than Stone Mountain Quiet, but we might get into that at some other point. This is Childish Gambino, aka Donald Glover's 2013 album, Because the Internet.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about expectations. Brett, what expectations did you have coming into this album?
I mean, it's not my first time listening to this album, like some of this album. It's not my first time hearing any music. We've reviewed a Childish Gambino album I've been here the whole time, but I at least did one. But I don't have a memory of disliking it, and I don't have a lot of strong memories about what my opinions were. But as I listened to it, like I was reminded, man, I need to look up more Thundercat.
Yeah.
But like that's I honestly, like, it's been a while since I sat down and listened to this front to back the first time this listen. So like going back like to the first time of listening, I don't even know what I was expecting, but I did know it was 2013, and I did know kind of the pieces that we're going to be putting this puzzle together with, and I kind of knew what the themes were going to be. So like but I got some things to talk about as the noted hip hop expert of the group.
Yes.
Biggest rap fan on the panel.
Yeah.
That's right.
The true hip hop head among us. David, what were your expectations coming into this album?
It's a weird question because I'm more than familiar with Childish Gambino, aka Donald Glover, in all facets of his work as an artist. I love a good concept album. That's no secret to regular listeners of the podcast. I would say that this probably wasn't a softball right down the plate, but I was able to get the barrel of the bat on this one and drive it up the gap at least. This one is one that I'm familiar with. I have opinions on, and getting a chance to re-listen to it and now express those opinions, that would be fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm also familiar with Childish Gambino because I brought, as proof, I was one of the people that brought an album of his. I was one that brought "Awaken My Love," and I'm familiar with the Dong Lover himself. And I'm a fan, so I was looking forward to this album because I've heard, I think at least the singles, even if not active, at least in passing, but I definitely heard a lot of the hooks. But I was anticipating finally diving deep into this. Let's talk about the album musically. Drew, how would you describe this album musically?
Well, the album itself is sort of a linchpin into this weird world that Glover sort of created, with the Roscoe's Wetsuit stuff, with like all of that intertwining with the screenplay, with the next album. There's even stuff like that he like points back to from this album in like Atlanta and stuff like that. So it's something that like he set this up. He was in a weird place when he wrote this album, if it wasn't clear from the album.
Cloud City.
Spent a lot of time in a place he called the Temple, which was Chris Bosch's mansion, which is weird. Where
Chris Bosch has a really nice house.
Right. But the rules of the Temple was like you were disconnected, work started at 10. No Twitter, no Instagram, nothing. Work started at 10. They were going. And it was something that he did because he had to face himself as he was leaving Community. And because of that, he wanted to set up a place for people to feel uncomfortable, is what he said in interviews. This album tackles the story of the boy. And it's sort of an existential look at this. And everything from track titles to how the album's set up into different acts to a 72-page screenplay that went along with it, all point towards this fact. And it deals with not only going through that sort of crisis, like what am I doing on this earth, but also like social issues. No secret. Glover, being a black man and being a black artist in the way he is an artist, sort of a Renaissance look, is not the typical. Growing up where he grew up and trying to piece this all together, being put into like the box of, oh, you're a comedian or oh, you're a rapper, was something that he wanted to get away from. And everything, like I said, harkens back to that. And we can get into that when we get into tracks, but it's from notes to how it was pieced together, it very much puts it into that camp. And actually, the beginning of the screenplay harkens back to even camp, and using the bus as a metaphor for not growing up. And this album being the growth of a character and possibly the de-evolution of that character as well. It's really a lot. The piece by piece is different, and because it works in acts, is 4 or 5 different like feelings in this album that are tackled. It says a lot in a lot of space.
Brett, how would you describe this album musically?
Well, let's do it in the words and the vocabulary that I have. This was very much what I remember of 2013 in music, with the production, the very cut and interstitial editing, the broad variety of different sounds and the directions that it goes, and it is definitely the hip hop as a long form poetry recording and storytelling that seems very 2013. Also, the novelties from 2013, such as vaporizing marijuana, or perhaps electric car brands that stopped existing in right around 2013, and callbacks to the before times.
Topanga was in the short film. Sorry.
Also, I've already mentioned there's you get some people in here doing some stuff, such as Thundercat, but also not since a person I have not seen since he was sitting on top of a basketball hoop in a basketball gym while a tank was in there. Mystical shows up, and I'm like, wow. My brain let's open that drawer up in my memory and be like, do I remember anything
he was
else?
A personal favorite of mine around 2002. He was high on my list.
Were you in fact shaking your ass, or were you just watching yourself?
I was watching myself. There were others. That's all I'll say.
So yeah, I was happy to see that there was a lot going on here. That there were words used that I understood when I looked through who was doing what. And obviously there was a sound enough that when I heard certain songs, I was like, oh, okay, I need to see who put their fingers into this, in this in particular. But musically, it's interesting. Beyond that, I guess there's a what Curly in here. There's a screenplay. There's problems with the NBC Universal being discussed in great length. I'm sure I could listen to a podcast that breaks it down song by song. I think. But I'm glad that Drew brought this, because boy, if I spent listening to an entire podcast breaking down all of this, probably have more to say.
Yeah. It gets crazy. The weird thing is, it didn't say too much. That podcast was fun for me because I knew, I would say 90% of it, but the concert stuff was stuff I was super unfamiliar with because I didn't know that factored into it too. And to find out it did, I was like, I should have known that, just because of course it did, but yeah.
Yeah. David, how would you describe this album musically?
I would describe this album musically as, if you are someone who would describe themselves as an old head, just don't. Just don't. Just go. You probably won't enjoy literally a single second of this. It is high concept hip hop that tells a story, yes, but production-wise, it is very, very 2010s, in good ways and bad ways, but generally good. If you are an old head, just don't bother. You won't like it. Find something you can enjoy, and don't let yourself get angry over something, because you might be dead inside otherwise. Just go find something you enjoy. But musically, there are more bleeps and bloops, but not in the video game way on this album. It's just that sonically, for a hip-hop album, it can be very experimental, but in a good way, because this was around the time where hip-hop was really starting to really experiment with sonic choices and sound. And Childish Gambino, to his credit, was at the forefront of that. And lyrically, it tells a really interesting story if you're paying attention. And it's something that is rare in hip hop, where it is an album you can sit down and listen to from start to finish because you know something's going on. And that's really cool.
Yeah. It's an album that has an ebb and flow to it, and it's cool to kind of like see the creativity. It's where like hip hop in this wave of like odd creativity and emotional creativity was growing ever more. And Gambino was at the forefront of that. He was even like before that. We talked about like Camp had that, but like early on he got people's attention with rapping for it being just clever and nerdy and just like he's got bars and it's clever and nerdy. If I remember correctly, but
the
then
mixtape era stuff.
Yeah. But I think he dove into, creating a music album as a filmmaker, almost like, or as a world builder, as a like, let me just go into
this album was his pitch. This was a pitch.
And in creating this world and like just navigating kind of where his head was within this world, and it's just cool. Like it's a cool vision, and it's cool to like be here, especially from almost a New Game Plus perspective of going back, going forward to something like Awaken My Love, which went in the whole direction that it went, and how fantastic that was, is. And you can see where the parts of that, like the parts of but it's also just well made, well constructed. There's still fun bars. There's still clever rapping, but it's done to specifically tell a story and tell a tale. And build other characters, like even like the parts where like there's non Donald Glover rapping songs. There's just songs that are just guest vocalists singing, for the most part, and it's all just it does a bunch of different things. It does quite a few different things and does them well. But yeah, let's talk about some of the key tracks. Drew, what would be some of the key tracks for you to zero in on?
Oh, well, for me, we'll skip Library, which is an intro that hooks into that internet feel of it. But Crawl, the way that if you know, like, sort of the story and the setup of the boy, which is the character's name in this, is literally just the boy. It sets this up, and this whole thing feels like the beginning of almost like a horror movie. Like everything feels off. Also, great use of, in my opinion, like effects on both the vocals and the music to tell a story. Also, I was going to say dollar to anybody who can pick up on the guest feature on this one, but everyone gave up the ghost on Mystical on that one, so thanks. World Star. if you only listen
Hey,
to
remember
one,
World Star?
That was
yes,
Sorry.
fun
World-
times.
World Star before rap. But like one, this being about World Star, and World Star being sort of the idea of the internet, like this microcosm of the internet, and what the worst of it could be, but also the best of it could be, like having both sort of dichotomies in that website to a point, but then it becoming a caricature of itself. Most of it being about those like crazy fight videos and like all that sort of stuff, and then that being sort of the sort of discussion you had around like, oh, this is new hip hop culture and blah 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 blah, and like dealing with all of that within a song, and then a murder's in the middle of it, and like the boy witnesses this murder in the middle of this story, in the middle of this song. Brilliant. Then I'm gonna skip to Flight of the Navigator. The central theme around this song being sort of like a near-death or an at-death experience and being pulled back through it. The peaceful, uplifting, but sad sort of feeling of this whole song and where it places the boy in this story and this big life change that he has and with his dad dying and all this sort of stuff sort of cements this as like the turning point in the story, really leading into the final act. But 3005, I don't know how fine a point I can put on it, because like I remember that song and everybody talking about that song as like this love story, and then that love story being like always feeling like, wait a second, it's not like, are people missing this? It's something where it's the saddest song on any album recently that I've heard. It's something where everything about it, whether it be the notes or the title being the 3+5 being this infinity symbol, like all of that being this cyclical thing, and dealing with that and what it means for the song and what it means to live forever and achieve something in this world, but not knowing if that ever happens, it's sadder than I think anybody like really thinks about.
Yeah, and Brett, what would be some of the key tracks for you?
Well, I mean, nothing is sadder than the use of a mellotron. No, it's a great thing when they use a mellotron. And Crawl, the abrupt use of like vocal clips that are kind of like thrown together with mellotron, but in a really neat way, was something I was, oh hey, Shadows. That again, that made me dig into. That's why my YouTube over here says Thundercat, and I heard about him. Yeah, talk about his favorite bass lines. But yes, the quack. There's some quack going on with that bass guitar in that brings me fun. It brings me joy. It's a lot of fun. Sweatpants. Yo, remember Fiskars? But yeah, like I that was the very like long stretch of a song that goes in a certain direction. I did not would expect my first listen for it to like explain how electric cars sound when they turn on. But like that is also something that reminds me, that song exactly reminded me of how far we are from 2013, kind of. But yeah, of the things that this had a lot less. There were a lot fewer instances of like I'm gonna do a line, and then I'm just gonna say something randomly, like I'm gonna Family Guy the hip hop, and there was less of that this time, but there was still some like I'm going to make commentary about daily life in a way that sort of puts a date stamp on it, and I think Sweatpants kind of did that with me, which is not a bad thing. 2013 was great. I think we were doing this podcast in 2013.
Oh my god, wait, were we?
I think so. We had just
I got media
started.
passes at conventions in 2013.
Yeah.
I think we were about. I think our first episode might have been like 2013. I definitely 2013. Yeah. At some point in 2013, because it started immediately. They started at the same time as Halijuku, and I know I did the entirety of 2014 with Halijuku, so we had to have been doing it at 2013. Yeah.
So in the Record Breakers era,
Yes.
Insane.
this album.
Yeah. We've been doing this for a long time. I don't know why. Who knows? But we love
I'm
it.
sorry, I keep bringing it down.
No. It's just exciting to think about like how much like we've grown.
People can put our voices into a robot and make us say terrible things in the
Yes.
future of deep fakes.
Yes.
How much I said.
Yes.
How many podcasts have I
Yeah. David, what would be some of the key tracks for you?
Sweatpants. This is probably the song that people probably glommed onto and didn't immediately get at first. In the words of the High Chief Jamel Arif, I would say that the dumb were mostly intrigued by the drum. The Party is the song where Donald fully embraces his ancestor, Andre 3000. You hear flashes of it through his whole career, but this song in particular is the one where you really hear him kind of embrace the Andre 3000 influence that a lot of hip-hop artists have in like the last 10 or 15 years. And also Flight of the Navigator, because it reminded me of one of Arian Lucason's Universal Migrator albums.
Yeah. There's a lot that could be said about Sweatpants. I think it's just it is a well-made song. It's a good song. It has those bars and it has those like the memorable parts that people remember and people and single remember are the sound like conventional rap hook, but it is much more. 3005 continues it really well. And just it builds upon it really well, and it's a nice showcase. I also give a shout out to what I just thought was a cool song with a cool feature. Earth, the Oldest Computer, was just that had some just had a nice feel to it towards the end of the song, and Azalea Banks features on it really well. Yeah, let's bring it back around the horn and talk about some conclusive thoughts.
So I forgot to mention Telegraph Avenue he's doing a sample of a song that was created just for the album. So it's a song within a song that doesn't actually exist, which is the weirdest thing in the world to me.
Yeah, it's wild. Yeah, let's talk about conclusive thoughts. Brett, what would be your conclusion on this album as a whole?
I mean, if you're coming to me for strong opinions on the nuances here, go elsewhere. But for me, I did not have any problems listening to this album. I mean, it's never a bad time to fill in gaps in knowledge, because 2013 I wasn't listening to this. And
what were you listening to in 2013, Brett?
In 2013, it was a lot of Euro synthwave. From like the 80s. My RDO playlist. There was some Bad Rabbits. There's some Mother Falcon. Diamond Head. No, but like that. My RDO playlist was very heavy on things with synthesizers from the 80s and indie rock that was not the Strokes.
Yeah.
But no, like I'm glad that Drew brought this because it's educational. I bring the swamp music, chicken picking, and or hammer don't hurt him. And Drew brings me the important stuff.
What do I
can
bring?
be.
I'm so all over the place. What do I bring?
I was gonna say,
Everything.
if they put your voice in, how many things about Petrucci could you say, from Constructed?
I still listen to a Trusty exhibition at work.
In 2013, I could say a lot. Now,
yeah. David,
Danny Brown is work appropriate.
Which is kind of a hint about my next album, everybody.
Oh boy.
Yes. David, what would be your conclusion on this album as a whole?
This is a concept album in a genre that is usually not known for concept albums. There are not a lot of club tunes on this album, or a lot of songs that are easily interspersed in radio, but that's not what this is about. What this album is about is how the internet has royally fucked us all up. Viral fame, memes, comment sections, and the urge to find music podcasts, and the urge to find a way to conquer it all. And just kind of because real life is hard. Real life is fucking hard. So, internet.
Yeah.
I thought this was really fascinating, just going back to it. I'm usually someone who looks at someone like an artiste talking about how tortured they are on the inside, especially when they're already really, really successful, and I'm usually inclined to tell them to be quiet. But Mr. Glover did this in such an interesting way that it was so very creative. He's just a really creative dude, and I think this was really well done.
Yeah, this is just a nice further blossoming of what Gambino is capable of as a creator and an artist. Camp was fantastic. I gotta go back and consume it again, but Camp was fantastic, and was a really great starting point, and had banger after banger. But this was a nice delve into something a little bit different, and I think it grew from there. I gotta listen to the follow up at this point. I don't think I've had a chance to listen to the after ones, to the album right after. But it's a nice to jump from this and then that the album and then to Awaken My Love, which is another fantastic delve into the mind of Gambino in a completely different style and approach. That was just absolutely fantastic. It's this one was a beautiful experience, and it's worth sitting down and either putting it in your headphones or putting on some nice speakers and just sitting down and consuming it from front to back. It has singles, but consuming the whole thing is one of those. This is one of those albums where it's worth it to at least do that once or twice or every once in a while, just as a full experience. Yeah, Drew, what would be your conclusion on this album as a whole?
Well, bringing up Camp, I think the interesting thing about this album, and David sort of touched on it, is that Camp sort of dealt with a lot of the same sort of issues that I think Glover still in art deals with now. His existence in the world, what it means, the weird upbringing he had as just the kind of kid he was in the area of Atlanta he grew up in. But it dealt with it in more of a normal way, quote unquote. It was him doing funny jokes in rap lyrics and sort of doing normal style rap songs. This album, yeah. hashtag rap to a certain degree in places. But this album deals with it and is sort of the lead up to where I think he went and is going. I hope he doesn't stop creating music. He's talked about it before, but I think his output's always been really good.
Don't pull a Will Smith, Don. Don't do it.
I think stuff like this.
Well, and come back when he's in his mid-40s and have
just keep going.
big lovey style.
Keep going, man.
Glovenium.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
But the thing about this is I wish there was more albums like this that had like a bunch of different stuff that it's like BioShock. And the reason
Whoa.
No, I want to hear this. I want to hear this.
Okay.
Let him speak. Let him speak.
BioShock, if you play the game and just play the game back to front, like Brett did, you get the idea. You get the broad strokes. The deeper you go, the more you pick at it, the more stuff starts to reveal itself, and there's bigger layers to it.
As one does with a concept album.
Kids were learning code to figure out the website so that they could get the secret track when the sequel came out. Like, the secret track on this was literally hidden on the website on the vocal track, and then you had to get an instrumental that was hidden as part of the next album. Like, it's something that kept growing, and he talked about wanting to do that. Like, the just doing music is lame. Like, you should be adding more to it because music is so easily consumed now. And I think this album is a good way to put that, is that he's continuing on this idea that, like, music is great and music is fun, but there can be so much more to it, and there can be so much deeper to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All-time meet.
Yes. Yeah, those are our thoughts on Childish Gambino's Because the Internet. And because the internet, we get over to our main event of the evening, the moment we've all been waiting for, our haiku reviews, where we sum it all up in poetic format with the 575. Yeah, let's get down to the nitty gritty. Haikumero numero uno. Brett, what is your haiku?
A larger sampling. 2013 time capsule. Gotta love the glove.
Mm-hmm.
I'll do a Jim Ross impression. Sorry.
Yes. David, what is your haiku?
Performance art told through Donnie G's other self. Very intriguing.
Mm-hmm. Yes. See, I'm very intrigued.
I finally got him to say it, everybody.
Yes. My haiku. Here's further proof that Gambino's the mastermind. Creative growth.
We have a 2.5 hour pre-show the show, and they're still counting their haikus.
Creative growth here.
Hey, the fact that we're not doing them during the show
is growth here. Drew, what is your haiku?
Add a one-syllable word. That'll always help. Deep insanity, melody, lyric, and art. Go get off the bus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are our thoughts on Childish Gambino's Because the Internet. Go check it out. It is on our Spotify playlist. Play Record Breakers, a home game. Do your due diligence and your dude diligence. It is available on our show notes at recordbreakerspodcast.com. Every episode has it right there to follow along on the Spotify playlist. Yeah, follow along at home. On that Spotify playlist will also be next week's record. It is provided. Where have I lost? It is my turn. Is it my turn?
I was saying to break kayfabe a little bit that I think the album that I have in mind might be a solid follow-up to Because the Internet.
No, I just forgot with the order, but yeah, it's my turn. I'm just gonna get it out of the way and get back on my K-pop bullshit. And just rip off the Band-Aid. We're gonna be talking about one of my comfort K-pop groups. This last year. That has been putting
discomfort K-pop groups, P.
I don't really have discomfort because even when
it makes
something...
you feel bad.
Yes. Oh, what the hell? I opened Spotify and everything froze for a second. Let's see. It is Dreamcatcher. With
the
Tree
movie
of
with
Language.
the Stephen King Alien Ooby Ooby Ooh.
I forgot the name of the album all of a sudden. Oh no, it's The Tree of Language. I got the full name because it's the first album, Dystopia, The Tree of Language. So we're going to be talking about some Dreamcatcher, some K-pop with extra fun trappings. So that's going to be a fun ride.
Extra.
Yes. I just wanted to make you scream. But yeah, be sure to check that.
You want to scream?
Next week, but that'll be next week, and this is this week, and you could of course find us all over the internet. David is at Call Me DJM. Drew is at Extrucifer X. Brett is at HBDBRD. I'm at PD Rave. The show is at 4 Record Breakers. That's the number 4 Record Breakers. RecordBreakersPodcast.com, RecordBreakersPodcast@gmail.com. Rebelli.net for this and other shows. Rebelli TV on YouTube and on Twitch. Follow us on Twitch, where we stream 3 days a week is our schedule. Tuesdays we do Dungeons and Dragons. Wednesdays we do Record Breakers. Thursdays we do Space Truckin'. We're going to be trying out a new game for Space Truckin'. We're going to be trying out Starbound. So we're going to get into that. We'll get started with the early stuff of that game. Get to extra Terraria, as I like to call it, for what I can see. We'll finally play the game that gave us, by connection, gave us the blinking white guy meme.
Yes, thank you.
Responsible for that, aka Drew Scanlon.
On an Unprofessional Fridays. And probably something Matt Rory said, if I have memory correct.
No, it was Jeff Gerstmann. Jeff Gerstmann saying, "I'm here farming with my hoe."
Oh.
Yes.
That's all it took for Drew? Alright.
It's just like...
No.
It's just that one little reaction became because the internet. So... go check that out. Check our schedule. We also do. I also like to do other random streams. There's a big new update to No Man's Sky, so we're not going to be doing it for Space Truckin'. Chances are I will be streaming more No Man's Sky, so keep an eye out there. But again, that's the schedule. Anything else is just whenever I have time or whenever I'm inspired. Yeah, keep an eye out for that. Just follow the channel. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Like, share, do all the things. Until next time, hasta los huevos.
Rebelli Podcast, baby.
And the white balance gets better when I put a Blue Jays hat on.
Yeah.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.